If you are a beginner and have always wanted to learn how to play chess, then you've come to the right place. In this video, we'll be taking you through the basics of the game and showing you some of the key techniques and tricks to help you improve your game. Chess is played by two players on a board with 64 squares. The board has 8 rows and 8 columns, and each square is either black or white alternatively. Before we start playing, we need to set up the board with all the pieces in their starting positions. The first row of the board is called the first rank, and it contains the pieces in a specific order. We have a rook, a knight, a bishop, a queen, a king, a bishop, a knight, and another rook. The second rank contains all the pawns. The pieces have different names, and they all move differently on the board. Let's start with the rook. As long as no other pieces are in its way, the rook can move any number of squares in either the horizontal or vertical directions. In simpler words, it can move up, down, right, left. It can even move during castling. The knight moves in an L-shaped pattern. It has the ability to move 2 squares in one direction before moving 1 square perpendicularly. It is the only piece that can also hop over the other pieces. The knight is good for controlling the center of the board and for attacking pieces that are difficult to reach. The bishop moves diagonally any number of squares, as long as there are no pieces in its way. In simpler words, it moves in X pattern. There are 2 bishops, one that moves on the white squares and one that moves on the black squares. Next is the queen, which is the most powerful piece on the board. The queen can move diagonally, horizontally, or vertically any number of squares, and it's good to use it to control the center of the board and to attack the opponent's pieces. Now let's look at how the king moves. The king can move 1 square in any direction, horizontally, vertically, and diagonally. And it's good to keep it protected and safe from the opponent's attacks. Finally, we have the pawns. The pawns have an initial move that allows them to advance 1 or 2 squares, and successive moves that allow them to advance 1 square. Pawns are the smallest and weakest pieces of chess. Pawns can only capture an opponent's piece diagonally, and they cannot move backwards. They also have 2 special moves, en passant and promotion. Let us talk about promotion. A pawn can be promoted to any other piece other than a king once it reaches the opposing side of the board. In order to promote a pawn, you simply need to remove that pawn from the board and replace it with the piece of your choice and put it on the box of promotion. Now let's talk about en passant. It's a special kind of capture. En passant can only be placed when a pawn advances 2 squares on its initial move and lands adjacent to the opponent's pawn. Now, the opponent's pawn can conquer the moving pawn like it had only moved 1 square. However, one thing you need to keep in mind is that this capture can only be done on the very next move. If you do not capture the opponent's pawn on the next move, you forfeit the opportunity to do so. The next special move is called castling, which is a way to move the king to safety and activate the rook at the same time. Castling is when your king moves 2 squares in the direction of a rook on your first rank before moving the rook to the square directly across from the king. This move is only allowed under certain conditions. Castling can only occur if neither the king nor the rook has moved yet during the game. The spaces between the king and the rook must not be occupied by any other pieces. The king must not be in check, and it must not move to a square that is under threat by an opposing piece during the move. Another important rule is that each piece can only be moved 1 time per turn, except for the knight, which can be moved multiple times in a row. Also, the goal of the entire game is to checkmate the other player's king. Now, let's discuss what exactly checkmate is. If a player puts the opponent's king in check, which means that the king is surrounded from all the sides, in simpler words, it is under attack and it is unable to move to any safe square. The opponent must escape check on their subsequent move. The opponent is checkmated and the game is ended if they are unable to escape the check. The winner is the player who checkmates the opponent's king. Finally, if the same position on the board occurs 3 times, with the same player having the move each time, the game is a draw by 3-fold repetition. Another way to have a draw is when there is insufficient material to checkmate, or when the players agree to a draw. Now, let's talk about draw conditions. In chess, a game can end in a draw if certain conditions are met. One way for the game to end in a draw is if there is insufficient material on the board. This occurs when both players only have their kings on the board, or if one player only has a king and a bishop, or a king and a knight, and the other player only has a king. Another way the game can end in a draw if the same position is repeated 3 times, or if there have been 50 moves without a capture or a pawn move. In these cases, either of the players can claim a draw and the game ends in a tie. Thank you for watching, and be sure to subscribe to our channel for more exciting videos like this one.